we all know the rules of these rules of engagement for these virtual meetings, but may I please just ask that you continue to flag points of order in the chat function, and then if your video and audio can be switched off to improve the quality of the connection. Once you're speaking, you can put on your mic and video, and then switch it off when you're done. If we may move on, we're here to deliberate on the submissions received for the Amendment Bill B6, the Constitutional Amendment Bill B6 of 2023, and the Western Cape Provincial Parliament's responses to submissions. We have received the matrix of submissions and the responses to the comments of the bill, and I'm going to ask Advocate Leroux to speak to the same. Advocate Leroux?
Chairperson, thank you. Should I just give a quick run-through of the comments on, well, the reply to the comments by the members of the public?
Yes, please.
Chair, I'm just opening a document. Just bear with me a minute.
No problem.
Chairperson, I'm flighting the matrix of the comments. I'm not going to pause at all the comments, and I think there's quite a bit of repetition as well. The first comment was a comment by Mr. Van Tonder. The details of the comment is there, but he suggested that a formula of 1 in 140,000 be used. And the comments on that is that is indeed a competent policy option for this committee to consider that. There was a comment at comment number 2 from the Commission of Gender Equality. I think that comment was more a general comment and a comment specifically applicable to the bill. And it related to adequate gender representation in legislatures. And there the comment, or my comment, was that that is probably something that will require review of the Electoral Act, since the members of legislatures are nominated by political parties on their lists. There was a comment from South Africa First Forum. Chairperson, I think that comment was mostly views expressed. From a legal perspective, I don't have any comments on that. I will return to the comments by the Western Cape government in a separate document. Then there was a comment from Mr. Jacobs. I think it was mostly a question regarding why there is provision in the bill for remuneration, and the answer to that was that the standing rules requires that the memorandum on the objects of the bill should indicate the financial implications of legislation. There was a comment from Mr. Convingo. The comment is that the bill lacks particularity regarding the number of members, and the answer to that was that that is partly the purpose of the public involvement process to determine what an appropriate number of members should be. Further comment, I think, was again a comment on members and a more general comment. And the response to that was, and I've used this response quite often here, is that it is the purpose of the bill to bolster the ability of the legislature to have oversight of service delivery. There was quite a few comments on service delivery related issues over quite a wide range of areas. But I think for purposes of this bill, the response simply is that it is the intention of the bill to improve the ability of the legislature to have oversight of service delivery. Similarly, the next comment was also a comment on allocating the funds and allocating the funds to the destitute. Similarly, there the comment is that it's the intention of the bill to improve oversight of service delivery. On the issue of the consolidation of provinces that was mentioned, the response there is that will require constitutional reform, changing the provinces. Of course, this committee can make a recommendation to the NA. That's always a possibility. The next comment by Peterson is also mostly a comment on related to service delivery. And then there is the response to that in terms of the intention of the bill. The next comment by Mr. Hewu also reflects quite a lot on local government matters. And the response there is that even though it's not in the subject matter of this bill, this committee can make relevant recommendations either to SALGA or to a provincial parliamentary committee if it so wishes. Also, the next comment is also focused on local government matters, and the response there is the same. There's a comment from Mr. Himon, which I think is self-explanatory and that requires no comment. Effectively, it's in support of an increase in membership. There's a comment from Luvo Maseti. And again, the response there, it's related to service delivery, and it's the intention of the bill to improve that. And then there's also the comment that an enlarged membership will support greater availability of members and committees to attend to service delivery oversight. There's a comment by Johan Simmets, which I think is self-explanatory, and it seems to support the bill or an increase in the number of members. There's a comment by, I think it's Ursula Griffith, regarding the presence of the minister, and a general comment on members of parliament. And again, the comment there is that it's intended for the bill to improve that oversight of service delivery. There was a comment that it's not clear what the objective of the bill is. The response to that is a reference to the presentation, to slide 11, where the purpose of the bill is referred to, which is effectively to improve oversight and accountability. There was a comment about the notable absence of government officials. It relates to law enforcement, etc. Again, the response there was it's the intention of the bill to improve oversight of service delivery. There was a comment on enhancing youth development programs rather than increasing the number of seats. And similarly, the response to that was related to improving oversight of service delivery. There was a comment, do not support the bill, but there's no particulars there to respond to. There's a comment that there should be emphasis on appointing more administration in municipalities, similarly to previous responses. That's a local government matter. This committee can make recommendations if it's so inclined. There's a comment on the affordability of basic services. And again, the response to that relates to oversight of service delivery. Similarly to the comment under that, there's a general comment about members acknowledging historical injustices, etc. I think that is for the committee to consider and not for legal advisor to comment on. There's a comment on the financial implications and issues of social justice. The comment there is again improving oversight of service delivery. Similarly, Chairperson, the next three comments, similar. The comments all reflect on service delivery, development, housing shortages. There's a comment on necessities for food and school fees and hunger relief, etc. And then the other comment related to other pressing needs elsewhere in the country to improve service delivery. And in respect of all three of those comments, the response is that it's the purpose of the bill to improve oversight of service delivery. Similarly to the comment underneath that, there's a comment on monitoring and evaluating the performance of members of parliament. From a legal perspective, there's no comment to that, but again, the committee can make recommendations if it is so inclined. That's similar for the comment from Marcel. And also for the three following comments. So the comments related to services to the community. There was a question whether increasing the number of members of parliament would improve that. There was a comment on redirecting funds to assisting organizations that serve the community. And there was also a comment on prioritizing youth education, increasing the pension fund and improving service delivery. And similarly, there was a similar response in terms of the objective of the bill. It's the same for the comment from Maria from Stellenbosch. Was also that her comment focused on adequate services and housing, improved representation and service delivery. There was a comment effectively that section 13 should be, let me just see whether it's this one. Yes. So my comment on that was that is a proposal for consideration from a policy perspective, whether it is necessary to increase the number of members. There's a suggestion that the formulaic approach by the IEC might be preferred. There's a comment by Muti Richards, which is effectively in support of the bill. And then there's a concern expressed about the financial implication for that. A comment by Van Heerden, which is in support of an increase of the number of members, and she mentioned increasing youth representation. The response there is similar to the comment by the Commission for Gender Equality, that increasing the number of young members may require amendment to the Electoral Act. And at present, members are appointed by political parties from their lists. There's a comment by Adams, effectively on service delivery and support to communities. A comment by de Klerk that is effectively in support of the bill. There was a comment related to addressing gender-based violence that was a bit difficult to respond to specifically. But the response is there that it's the purpose of the bill to improve oversight of service delivery. There was a comment by Marentia Uester related to clinics and hospitals, dealing with increasing school dropout rates, etc. There's a few responses to that. Firstly, that it's the purpose of the bill to enhance oversight of service delivery. There was a proposal there for, that there should be legislative reform as it relates to school dropouts. That is a recommendation that this committee can make to the relevant department or the relevant committee. And similarly, there was a comment on provincial health issues, and this committee can also similarly make recommendations in respect of that. There was a comment from Michelle's paper, which is effectively in support of the bill. a comment from Mentor, which is also effectively in support of the bill. And then the issue of youth development is also mentioned there. Comments from Letsapo and Peter Heska, which is effectively in support of the bill. That they express the view that the number of representatives are not adequate. Comment by Virginia Janssen. The proposal there is that Section 13, a repeal of Section 13 of the Constitution of the Western Cape will allow for the number of members to be determined by the IEC. That is a competent policy option for this committee. It's possible to do that. And then there are 5 comments that are effectively in support of the bill. Chairperson, that's the end of this document. Should I pause there?
Yes, I think we should pause there. Members, are there any deliberation necessary or required on the matrix that that Advocate Leroux has gone through?
Chair, sorry, could I just get some clarity? Is this a summary of all the public hearings? Do we have written submissions that are still coming?
Yes, this is the summary of the written submissions, as well as the public hearings. There is there's the government, the responses submitted by the Western Cape government, which we will be going through as well. That's another document that we will be going through.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
we'll go through that, but can we go through this? And are there any comments on this, Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to find out if we could start with the comments that aren't related to the bill specifically. Some that I read, for example, relates to monitoring and evaluation of members. And my view is that in terms of performance and work ethic, those matters can possibly be referred to the WCPP speaker. Because that relates to whether someone is working or not. And because we don't know who is working and who is not, the speaker might be the best avenue to be able to deal with all comments relating to monitoring and evaluation. The second one that I read was local government matters that don't deal with the bill specifically. So where someone is referring to something that is or is not happening in a municipality, it might be productive to forward those to the local government committee, because while those might not necessarily relate to the bill itself, we don't wish for public participation comments just to disappear. We would like them to be dealt with and to be processed by the respective committees. And then there was another one. Third. There were some comments relating to the implementation of service delivery. And I think we just need to be clear that a member of parliament is not constitutionally mandated to implement service delivery. We are constitutionally mandated to conduct oversight, to deal with public participation, and to deal with lawmaking when it comes to things such as service delivery. And then finally, I think the last one that is unrelated to the bill was comments relating to the prioritization of certain programs. So where a certain program was asked to be prioritized in terms of the province, I think those would be more placed to be sent to the budget committee for processing. But if it relates to a program at local government level or a municipality specifically, I think those would probably be well placed to be sent to the local government committee. Chair, I know I haven't made any of my comments now in terms of the comments related to the bill, as I would like to wait with those first. I think it would be beneficial for us just to first say, okay, these relate to the bill, these do not relate to the bill, but the ones that don't relate to the bill, we don't want them to disappear. We still want to refer them to the correct avenues for processing if possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Bartman. I agree with that comment, and I agree with that recommendation. Member Dugmore.
Sorry, Chair, I just want to try and get clarity. I mean, the issues that Member Bartman has raised, I mean, in my view, what's been given to us is a summary. It's not for us to decide, you know, we know some are directly submissions on the bill, but others are issues which people have raised. So I don't have any issue with the way they've been captured on this spreadsheet. I don't think it's for us to begin to, I'm not sure if that's what Member Bartman wants to do, is to exclude some or just refer others, but I don't think that's our task. I think our task is just to report on the issues, and some of the issues about service delivery and so on are concerns that people are raising. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the template that has been prepared, and I would propose that we will, for this purpose, we note it. Yeah, we note it for now.
Thank you, Member Dugmore. Member Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to clarify, I'm not asking for anything to be excluded. If we only note something, after that noting, it goes nowhere. If we say, for example, okay, we note the comment, but we would also like the committee that is responsible for the matter to process the matter, then it means that that committee is going to be asked to please give attention to the matter. But if we, as the Premier Committee, who got a comment that is unrelated to the mandate of the Premier Committee or to the bill that is before the Premier Committee, I don't wish for those comments to simply disappear if we say we are noting them. I would like the Provincial Parliament to deal with those particular comments. So my request, the reason I didn't start with my comments on the bill-related matters is because I firstly want to make sure that those that we received unrelated to the bill, that those are dealt with and that members of the public are able to get responses to them, and that the respective committees and or structures of the Provincial Parliament are able to give attention to them. And that is my plea. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member Bartman. Thank you for clarifying that. I think that's a fair way to go. Member Klaas, I understand you want to make a submission.
Thank you, Chair. No, my submission is that we first think as the presentation as it is. Only what I can say is that to this submission, we have to, no matter we take the comments from the people, but we have to do submission on our side as the committee. Because my point of submission is that we do not give them a good education people in order for them to address this thing as it's supposed to be. That is why you've got confusion here of others talking about local municipality and all of that, because we didn't run this thing like considering through municipality, correct? Where we have to get the statement of what we are doing first to them, feed them, and then when we come us as a parliament in order for us to get, because my submission is that this is the mixed information of which that it shows that people, they didn't receive a great education from the process of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Klaas. Members, are there any further deliberations on the comments that we've received? Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible for me to go through my comments on the ones that are related to the bill now?
Yes, you may.
Okay. My first comment relates to the remuneration of members of Parliament. To my understanding, and maybe the legal advisor can correct me, and I did see part of it in the submission, is that nationally, the Independent Remuneration Committee decides regarding remuneration of members of Parliament. That is not decided by us. That gets gazetted and that gets implemented across the country. So in terms of the decision of what the remuneration is, it has to be in the objects of the bill. And I think Advocate Leroux is correct in his response that he indicated there. But we don't decide the remuneration. And I just want us as a committee to make that clear to members of the public. Then my second comment, which is a little bit of a comment / going into my personal submission now, is that if there was a comment regarding repealing the IEC formula, perhaps in its completion. And Chair, here, I want us as a committee, we must be very honest with ourselves. If we either repeal the clause, or if we follow the current formula of the IEC, then it would increase the Western Cape Provincial Parliament by 30 extra members from 42 to 72. But in the current fiscal environment of South Africa and in the Western Cape, 30 is simply unaffordable, Chairperson. It is unaffordable. And if we leave it up to the IEC, they are going to say to us that they must be fair towards us and they must give us the same amount as every other province in terms of the formula, but it is unaffordable, Chairperson. In this regard, regarding the affordability, I agree with some of the respective submissions. However, in terms of the cost, when you look at the respective categories of cost, the respective categories of how many members and what that would be in terms of costing, the easiest and most affordable option that I can see that we have received in terms of briefing was an increase of 6, which would essentially take the Western Cape Provincial Parliament from 42 to 48. And my advice in this regard, or my plea in this regard, is if we agree to this view, that I believe the Western Cape Provincial Parliament in and of itself must then absorb the cost of that increase. And the reason I say this is because it is my view that this cost must not affect service delivery. It must not affect frontline services. And in this regard, I think that when we look at the costing, the breakdown of different members that we're giving to us, and that we must listen to the plea of affordability, 30, unfortunately, is unaffordable. However, if we look at the cost of an increase of 6 at the rate of, and Advocate Leroux can correct me if I'm quoting this incorrectly, but the cost would be an average of 22 million, if I remember correctly, and if I'm reading this correctly, and that should then be absorbed by the WCPP. This would mean, Chair, if the members of this committee agrees with my view, that we would have to have an able to amend the respective draft clause of this particular bill in order to say that actually instead of putting the formula into the Constitution, we put the number 48 instead of the number 42. This would then deal with both the comments relating to those supporting the increase and those not supporting the increase. This would also accommodate those who've indicated where will the costing comes from. I'm hoping that other members would agree with me, but obviously this is us considering everything, and I'm open to listening the views also of others. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Bartman. Before we go any further, members, I just want to ask Advocate Leroux if there was questions whether you were going to if Member Bartman was correct. Is there anything that you'd like to add to Member Bartman or correct Member Bartman where necessary?
Chairperson, no, there's nothing. I agree.
Okay, thank you very much. Member Dugmore?
Oh, thanks very much, Chair and members. Once again, I think, Chair, the reality is that in the submissions, there's broadly the issue of people concerned about service delivery, allocation of funds. Then there are those that made the point that, you know, since 1994, the population has grown from 4.2 to almost 7.4 million. The number of seats in the legislature has stayed the same. And others who made a proposal around, you know, a more limited number. But the reality is, just as you have a situation where the salary of members is not determined by us, there's a commission that determines that. Similarly, for everyone except the Western Cape, the Independent Electoral Commission has a formula. That formula is applied, and here we are as members of this legislature wanting to decide actually on how big we should or should not be. Clearly, this is not a matter that actually should be being dealt with by the legislature. And the simplest way of dealing with this, and this is what I want to formally propose, is that we simply remove the clause which refers to the size of the legislature. Every other province, based on its population, is allocated an equitable share. And for all these years, essentially, we've, I would argue, have been, you know, actually undermining the ability of this legislature to be accountable to the people, to have proper oversight in the committees, given how basically the committees are stretched, given that the number of people that are part of the executive, etc., etc. So in fact, we then have a situation where officials, you know, write to us, and it's actually not in their interest to be monitored and to be held accountable, and, you know, make particular arguments around this matter. This should not be a matter that we, as members, are dealing with. There is a formula, and I want to propose that the committee leaves that decision according to the national formula to the IEC, given that all provinces will receive equitable share allocations based on their numbers. So that's what I want to propose, would be the simplest way, so that, because when are we then going to have to change the constitution again? It's just, and in terms of the motivation by Member Bartman, there's no scientific basis to say we can only afford 6. What figures is she talking about? Is she considering the equitable share allocation, etc., etc.? We don't need to get involved in this as members. We must leave it to the body that has the legal authority to do this. And I think that is going to be the best way of resolving this matter. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Dugmore. I do understand Member Klaas and then Member Bartman. Member Klaas?
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm just going to say the numbers depends to the population that we have in the Western Cape, according to the counting. And we see that Western Cape, because it was governing themselves as a Western Cape, some of the things they hold themselves because they believe of saving and all that stuff. That is not wrong. But now on this term now, because it has affected the Western Cape itself, that's why they put this thing on table. It's not because they put on table because there's enough seats for them to operate. Now, when they take this thing on table, let the legality do this process by themselves, because the legality is the one that going to decide which number we supposed to get. Because when I listen to the IEC, when he's talking about this matter, they said to us is that most of all provinces, they've got close to 80. And then 80 is the number that must not exceed. They said it's to 40 to 80. So for them to count on that, it must not again us as a Western Cape and give the number, But according to that count and the number that we increased as the Member Doug Moore explained is that the number that the Western Cape increased, it's double if its own number at the time they use 42 people to lead. And we honestly know that we are not in the ground as parliamentarians. The Western Cape, honestly, we are not in the ground. And that is why people, they believe that there's no need to increase the number because we don't see anyone on the ground. And when we need accountability, we need people to be available. We need people to be there. And when we saw the scale of the IEC, as Member Patman, not Member Patman, Member Moore explained, IEC already have its own number. That it shows us on a discussion. That is what I cannot expose because it's not my right. We were just talking with them. So now I'm fear that there are much more less of Member Patman number. It triples that number of Member Patman, even not triple, double, because the number I saw that is close to 70 something that I saw in their diagram. They show us, and then I don't know where, to whom they get that number, because we didn't expose that number. We didn't talk about that number. But the honest thing that I want to say to Member Patman is that the Western Cape itself, because they applied to lead on their own as a province, it must not now, when they see difficulties and then want to hold it again, because it's the Western Cape who agree with 42 people, which were there a long time ago. And when the others increased, because they said that even Eastern Cape and others, they've got 80, others 74. But when you check the number of the Western Cape, it's more bigger than them. That is why we see the issue of the salaries and other things. I'm supporting Member Dagmo when he said that it will depend to the government. Because we can talk about salary. We are even now today still trying to arrest those who have used our money, but we didn't get it them. But when it comes to increase the service delivered, we want to hold it, because we want people to be accountable. We want people in the ground, because some of we repeated to be in the same seat of the committees. So it will be right that 6 is not fair on my side, and it must increase, but I won't say the number. It will depend to the IEC. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Class. Member Bartman.
Chair, thank you so much. Firstly, I am 100% cognizant of the population growth in the Western Cape, and I will get to the equitable share part of that section in a moment. I first would like to deal with the difference between legality and policy. Legality is whether you can do something, which means we can change the constitution in terms of whether we put a formula in or a number. That is not disputed. Policy is whether we should and how we do it. We have received comments regarding legality, and as members of parliament, another synonym for us is a legislator or a lawmaker. And our role in this regard is now to decide not whether we can or cannot, but whether we should or should not. I'm now going to quote from a presentation that we, the Premier Committee of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, gave to the public in terms of this bill on the 1st of September 2023, slide 22. Because some members have indicated they don't know where Member Deirdre Bartman got these figures. So I'm going to quote from our own presentation that we gave to the public on this bill on the 1st of September 2023, slide 2022. On that particular slide, it indicates differences of proportions of options. Option 1 was additional 6 members, and the projected additional expenditure per year was 22 million. The second option was 9 additional members, projected additional expenditure of 31 million per year. The third option was 13 members with a projected additional expenditure of 44 million. Then it was 18 members at 59 million per year. then it was 23 members, an additional expenditure of 74 million, and 30 members, which would bring us to 72, was an additional expenditure of 96 million rand per year. And if I remember correctly, the 96 million rand is more or less just under the same amount of our community services and policing oversight department in the Western Cape, or similarly the same amount more or less of our cultural affairs and sports department in the Western Cape. That means every single year at a rate of 96 million rand, we would have to find a whole department of community services and police oversight in the Western Cape every single year. It is not affordable. In terms of the equitable share, since the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill has been sent to provinces recently, and if you read the particular bill, you will know that the national government made a public wage negotiation wage agreement. The impact of that on the Western Cape province specifically is 2.9 billion rand. In the current bill sent to the Western Cape, we are given 1.7 billion rand. Now, if you take your 2.9 billion rand and you minus the 1.7, you will notice that we are missing 1.2 billion rand that national government did not give us. That means that our current Minister of Provincial Treasury, Mireille Wenger, is going to have to go find that 1.2 billion rand, just under 1.2 billion rand, in the current budget in year in order to make up for a commitment and a wage agreement that was agreed to by National Treasury. That means the Western Cape government will have to cut its current budget for the agreement that the national government has made and has not given us enough money to cover. So we cannot ignore the current fiscal environment that we are in. I think it would be irresponsible for us as a committee to ignore the current fiscal environment that we are in. So in terms of that presentation, the options, and trying to find a middle ground between the various comments we've received in terms of support and not support, and being cognizant of costing, being cognizant of the fiscal environment, and also being cognizant of population growth, as well as the fact that we have a Western Cape provincial constitution, and that gives us those respective powers. Be cognizant of all of those matters. My view is that we take that option 1 of 6, that will amount to a projected expenditure of 22 million rand, and that would then mean that we would have to bring an amendment to the bill to take out the word 42 and put in the word 48. But that we also recommend to the Provincial Treasury and to Western Cape Government, and in this regard the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, that the Provincial Parliament must absorb the cost of the 22 million rand so that service delivery budgets do not get cut because members of the committee want an increase of members. I am pleading with the committee, please let us take in consideration the current fiscal environment of this country and of our province, and the immense task it is going to take to find money that we maybe already don't have. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bartman. Member Pretorius?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I fully concur with what Member Bartman has said. This is not about what is politically expedient. This is about what is responsible, and I think Member Klaas referred to or used the word accountability. This is about accountability. Given the recent unfolding of the midterm budget, etc., I'm not suggesting it was done, but the wording equitable share is quite often used, and I honestly, sorry, Member Dugmore, I'm sure this wasn't your intention, but it's used very glibly, and even if this committee recommends 6 additional seats, I frankly don't know where the province is going to get that money. Just this morning, I was with someone who told me that George Provincial Hospital, and we've been there, the member Klaus was there with us, I think, when we visited on an oversight visit not so long ago, is closing wards. It's not closing beds, it's closing wards. Why? Because of funding. And the George Hospital was one of the pilot projects of the NHI, but it's closing wards. Now, if that in itself doesn't tell a story of how scarce funding has become, I think there's a huge problem. So I fully support what Member Bartman has said. I honestly cannot see how this committee can take responsibility. That's the other point. It's our responsibility then to ensure that those 6 seats, for that matter, that will probably be recommended, that is actually literally going to the chamber, for that matter. It's a huge responsibility that we're taking and putting on ourselves here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Pretorius. Member Dugmore?
Thank you once again, Chair. Chair, I think we must be careful to distort the way the budget works. The legislature receives a budget on the basis of what the Treasury puts through the MEC for Finance, what they put to the legislature. Everyone knows that we don't yet have the ability to bring a money bill to change that. So effectively, it is the MEC for Finance who, utilizing the equitable share, and obviously are the issue, there's our own revenue, there's the issue of conditional grants. That decision is made by them, and in terms of how much money the legislature should get. But in the context of an increase in our numbers, an increase in the equitable share, it is the responsibility of the MEC Finance in this case, because we pretty much just a rubber stamp because we can't actually change the budget as this legislature, to make sure that out of an equitable share, all other provinces are funding the seats in their legislature. There's no conditional grant for that. It comes from the equitable share because there's a national formula. So just like there's a national formula around, which doesn't involve us, that determines in a process and a commission to determine the salaries, just at the same time we have a situation where the IEC, an independent body, looks at the issue of representativity, and they've obviously come up with a formula about the fact that a province generally needs from 1 to 100,000 in terms of not only reaching the constituencies but participating in committees and so on. So the Western Cape, since 1994, because of a provision in this constitution, has actually been penalizing the people of this province in regard to effective representation on the one hand and oversight. And then in conclusion, I think all of us know that we need 2/3 to change this constitution. So it would seem to me that I think we should accept that there's not going to be 2/3 for the proposal of 6. There's probably not going to be 2/3 for the proposal of removing the clause. So I think we should just accept that, let's stay at 42, because it's clearly, something that we don't seem to be willing to actually engage in and discuss. And as I've said before, the quickest way which removes this thing from us deciding is to follow the national formula, which has been worked out about a figure per 100,000, 1 per 100,000. Those provincial governments have been using their equitable share. And what makes us different? We know that we need to hold officials to account, but in fact, it's in the interests of officials not to be held account. So obviously, some officials don't want a bigger legislature. And the argument should not be used around that other services are being edged out, because at the moment, we don't even have a say as to how we can amend the budget that is actually tabled. So Chair, I think it's clear that maybe we need to, look at the issue of adjournment and possibly, people engage with their political principles to discuss this issue. Because the reality is that we've heard from the submissions, there have been those in favor of an increase, those against, those with a limited number of increases, others fully supportive of the IEC formula, and those are noted. What we are proposing is to take ourselves out of having to be the arbiter on this matter, is to understand that all other provinces follow the IEC formula. All of us are have salaries determined by an independent commission, and that's what we need to adjust to as a province, which we haven't been doing since 1994. And I would argue that that continued approach is actually denying this province its rightful representation of MPs to serve the people and effective presence on the committees. And we actually undermine.
Sorry, remember Dagmar? Remember Dagmar, you went on mute there.
Sorry, did I go back on mute?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just saying, Chair, I think in summary that, this province has actually denied the people of the province legitimate representation according to a national formula. And that means that since 1994, we remain with 42 members, which impacts on our ability to serve the constituency, which is geographically very widespread. We know about those issues. Secondly, it undermines our oversight role. And let's be honest, the executive doesn't have an interest in the legislature actually increasing in size, because they're not interested in increasing our ability to actually hold them accountable. And I think what's happening here is that Member Bartman and the party that she represents are not taking a view in the interest of the legislature and the people. They take an executive view. They're actually just following what the executive and the treasury wants. And we are saying that we need the IEC formula, and that the equitable share there needs to be looked at. And that the reality is, if we have these differences, we know that we can only change this constitution by 2/3. And clearly neither of these proposals is going to have 2/3. So I think we should adjourn the meeting, and that, we should engage with our political principles about this matter. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Dagmar. I'm going to ask Member Klaas, Advocate Leroux, Member Bartman, and then I want to go to there's two things that are outstanding that we still need to deal with. We need to deal with the comments from the Western Cape government. So we need to deliberate on those as well. And then there are two proposals that have been put to the floor. So we have to take a vote on those proposals. But first, Member Klaas.
Chair.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, Chair, what I want just now to quickly, in order to save time. Honestly, we must not see us, we need to be in the ground to work for the people, and then when something is going to be right and we go all these roads, when it comes to be discussed and improve, and then we suffer for improving this thing. What is important? We have to ask IEC that how many people we can get, how many people you can afford as a government. Because now it's a dictatorship when you said to us you want people and you said you want 6. It is clear that you want to tell us everything what to do. While we said that let us go and tell the people that there is a service delivery needed on the ground. We are few. 48 is few. It's not enough. Because how many committee we have here? How many of us double work in that committee, even the member of DA, while it's a majority? So that is why I'm saying that we must not go and ask for something in order to suit us only. It also must suit the ground people, because people are confused. They said to us when they come that there is no need of a parliament because you don't come to us. We don't see you on the ground, but when you come here, we want now that is why I said that the issue of the IEC must address to us which number we can get, how much, then we go to government, how much we can give. Because the Western Cape municipality, your Western Cape Parliament saved the money long time ago of people supposed to earn that money. They want only this number. So they save more than 20 years. Money should be, people be delivered, services. And then now it's a chance that they see they need to be delivered. Now you count that money you left for 20 years, you want to count to us now. Your option of number 1, it is fine when you take it. I know that the hospitalities, they said there is no money. But honestly, the medical aids, you will never have that they said they don't have money. You will never hear that they don't do service delivery when you are there. It's only when it's something that is government and it is free and it's taxpayers' money, which all of us, even no matter you buy a bread, you pay a tax. So for us, the delivery is also poor because we talk about money. But when you check to those who are working in hospitals, doctors, how much they earn. So what we are trying to say to that, let us conclude and say that IEC must give us a number and then we decide to that number, because this is just dictatorship when you give us number. You say just 6 option 1, and then you talk about money, of which we are not going to spend that money. The money will come to us and we spend the money according to being given by the government. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Advocate Leroux.
Chairperson, thank you. I want to make the following comments just to maybe to inform the conversation in terms of timelines, because I think it's important when the committee has a conversation about affordability and budgets and so on. I think the committee is aware that the initial timeline or project timelines for the bill, the intention was for the bill to be passed in mid-August. And then, as the members know, once the bill has been passed by the House, it has to be referred to the Constitutional Court for certification. Once that has happened, the Premier must assent to the bill, etc. So at the time that timeline was designed in such a way that the bill, should it be passed, that the bill can be in place for the 7th parliamentary term. And I think the members will also know that the IEC indicated that it needs whatever number the Western Cape decides on, it needs to have that number by the end of this year to implement that in terms of the processes, in terms of the Electoral Act. Chairperson, in all likelihood, if this bill is passed in whichever form, the bill will, the Act, once assented to by the Premier, will only become operative in the 8th term, in all likelihood. So we will probably, let's say, conclude certification by the Constitutional Court in about a year. So that will put us somewhere near the end of 2024 or possibly even 2025. So whatever the bill provides for, that will only come into effect in the 8th term. So that would be 5 years from now. So I just mentioned that. It's not a comment on the inputs by the members. It's information that I'm sharing because I think it informs the whole conversation about affordability. Now, of course, I mean, I can certainly not say what the fiscal outlook will be 5 years from now, whether it will be better or worse. But I'm just I'm mentioning the issue of timeline because I think that impacts on the kind of the facts we are looking at and considering at this point in time and the relevance of those facts to at this point in time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, first of all, I'm not going to be insulted by being called a dictator. I still also have rights as a member in terms of Rule 59. That's the first part. The second part is the people of the Western Cape deserve more representation. I'm cognizant of that. They do deserve more representation, but not at the cost of closing a hospital, not at the cost of closing a school, and not at the cost of closing a whole department almost every year. When you take the 96 billion rand in the presentation that we gave the members of the public, that is for the 30 members, and that's per annum, that is not in total, that is per annum, and you minus the 22 for the 6 million rand, that brings you to 74 million. That's the 96 minus 22 brings you to 74 million rand. So that essentially means we have to then find 74 million rand every single year between the difference between 6 and 30. So the members who are supporting the 30 members must tell us where we are going to find in the current budget 74 million rand per annum every single year. Every single year. On the 30 June presentation of the Budget Committee, the Provincial Treasury confirmed that we only have 400 million left in our stabilization fund and 500 million in our emergency fund. That means with 900 million and the fact that the provincial minister has to go find between 1.1 and 1.2 billion rand for the public wage agreement at the moment, it means there can be no floods, no fires, no drought, no locusts, no COVID 2.0 because there is no money. When you look at the empty BPS that was tabled, it is unlikely that the data set of the population growth of Stats SA will be incorporated by February 2024. We want it to be incorporated by February 2024, and we will continue to push that it is incorporated by February 2024. But it is highly unlikely based on the communication in terms of the empty BPS that has been recently released. Thirdly, it was mentioned what other provinces are doing. Just because another province is doing something does not mean the Western Cape must. It's the same as just because you can do something in life does not mean you must do it. We need to look at how this will impact the people of the Western Cape in real terms. And finally, in this regard, please, I do not wish for us to insult the intelligence of the people of the Western Cape in terms of we must just willy-nilly change the constitution so the IEC can decide for us. One of the reasons these clauses are in the Western Cape Constitution is because it was important. The Western Cape Constitution was ratified by the Constitutional Court of South Africa, which is the highest court in terms of constitutional matters in our country. So if we're going to insult the Western Cape Constitution, we are also insulting the Constitutional Court. My plea is we can then go through the comments by the government, which we also have to take in consideration because that is part of the public participation process. But if I look at these comments in and of itself and the difference between those who support, those who do not support, and more or less almost everyone raising how much is this going to cost, where's the money going to come from, where's the money going to come from, where is the money going to come from, then on this alone, I would suggest, and it's not me saying, I'm suggesting based on the options that were given to us as a committee. My suggestion was, and my recommendation is 6, which would bring us to 22 million, and that we also recommend this cost be absorbed by the provincial parliament, and it must not result in service delivery and frontline services being cut. Thank you.
Thank you. In the interest of fairness, I'm going to like Member Dugmore to speak, and then afterwards we'll ask Advocate Leroux to take us through the Western Cape government comments. Member Dugmore?
No, thank you. Chair, I think you must make it very clear that all of us recognize the provincial constitution, the fact that it was assented to. So But I think we must also be big enough to realize that as much as it has been assented to, you know, there are always mistakes. So as much as it's lawful, the fact is that because of the provincial constitution, this province has been denied representation for its people, because the province decided that it should not follow the IEC formula. And I think that, so as much as the constitution is lawful, the reality is it was a mistake, because for all these years, you've actually denied adequate representation to the people of the Western Cape. That is the reality, and that's why we find ourselves in a situation like we do at the moment, facing, you know, deciding whether to ask the IEC to determine this or to go some other path. But so it's not about disrespecting the constitution, it's just admitting that actually this was a mistake, because now you're sitting with a situation where we effectively have denied and are going to continue to deny representation. The second thing is, I must admit, I was quite surprised with what Advocate LaRue said. My understanding, Chair, you've always informed this committee that we have a timeline to try and affect the changes, you know, before next year's elections. And in fact, it was you, Chairperson, and members supporting you that actually decided or proposed that we have hearings in addition. So possibly it would be appreciated if you were just upfront and honest with us. If there is no intention to take this amendment, you know, look, there are different ways. Sure, I agree that it would have to be taken to the Constitutional Court. But it's clear that if the legislature, you know, communicated with the IEC, if it had the will to say, well, let the IEC decide, they would take that into account, and one also could make a very strong case for approaching the Constitutional Court. But Chair, can you just be upfront with and honest with the committee? If the intention isn't to deal with it this year, then we are now hearing something for the first time, because up to now you've indicated that we are trying to meet a deadline. And in fact, you know, this whole amendment was in fact moved by the executive, sorry, by the speaker, and, you know, by initiated by your particular political party. So unfortunately, it seems that your party is now divided on this matter. So I think what's going to help this committee, if we can just be clear, are we agreeing that in fact we are only going to deal with this matter so that it can impact on the elections in 2029? If you can just tell us that, then we know what we are talking about. I think that would help. And it's not a question about just following other provinces through you, Chair Member Bartman. The reality is that there is a national law in this regard. This province decided to follow a path of provincial exceptionalism, which has actually impacted negatively on this province. So those provinces are simply allocated the seats, and there's a limit. It's not unlimited. It's between, you know, it's a maximum of 80. So one could never exceed that particular total, unless, of course, you amend the Republic's constitution at a national level. So those provinces adopted a national formula through an independent committee that has, in its wisdom, decided that you need 1 rep per 100,000. So we're not just following, it's just logical that there is a system to do this. So I think, Chair, it would help us if you just indicated whether you agreed with Advocate LaRue that in fact what we're talking about here is a proposal which will have an impact in the 2029 elections. That will really be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Dugmore. Let me say that when we first viewed the timeline, I was under the impression that we would make the timeline. However, under advisement, we weren't sure whether the Constitutional Court would say that 3 public hearings was sufficient because of the fact that this bill affects all of the people of the Western Cape, and it affects the ability of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament to exercise its functions, as you have previously stated. I asked the committee for its guidance and for its deliberation on adding extra public hearings to make sure that we give everyone a fair chance to have their say, to comment on this bill. Whether the bill is assented to by the Premier in time, I cannot say, but we must make sure that we follow all the precepts, all the requirements that would have been set out by A, the Constitution, and B, the Provincial Constitution, and C, to make sure that we give everybody a fair chance at commenting on this bill. So it's not the case that I disagree or agree with Advocate Leroux, but I will say this: it was never the intention to delay this bill to be in operation in 2029. The only intention was that we make sure that we give everybody a fair chance to comment on the bill. If we may move on to Advocate Leroux, if you could go through the Western Cape government responses, please.
Chairperson, on the Western Cape government's responses, let me just quickly flag that. Chair, subject to your guidance, it's not my intention to linger on these too long, basically for the following reason. I mean, from this conversation in the committee is still considering various options. At this point in time, the conversation is about substituting the number in Section 13 of the Provincial Constitution, whatever that number may end up being. That's the one option. The other option that's being discussed is the option of repealing Section 13 of the Provincial Constitution. And then, of course, when the bill was drafted, the option that was chosen at the time was to go for the formulaic, I'll call it that, approach. So there were three ways, effectively. And in September of last year, I think it was this committee or the ad hoc committee was advised on the three options, to go for the formulaic approach, or to go for a direct substitution of the number in Section 13, or to repeal Section 13. So there were those options, and it seems as though there are still those options from this conversation. At the time of the three options, my view was that the formulaic approach is the least preferred approach. I suggested to the committee then that a direct substitution or a repeal would be better options, simply because the legal certainty about those options is very clear. The Constitutional Court already certified a Section 13 that simply refers to a number. There's no reason to think that the Constitutional Court would not do so again. Also in, I think it's paragraph 14 of the relevant judgment, the Constitutional Court also referred to the possibility of a province with a provincial constitution simply repealing a provision, and then in that case the provisions of the Electoral Act would apply. So those were two recommendations that were made. Now, Chairperson, the provincial government, they commented on the draft as it is, which is a formulaic approach. And they made a number of comments on that. But in my responses, I indicated, or I suggested, that we should, at this point in time, dealing with these issues could be academic, because this committee may very well decide to follow a completely different approach. So we can spend time considering the merits and the demerits of the proposals, but it may well happen that this committee, in any case, decides to go with a direct amendment or substitution of the number approach, or a repeal approach, in which case the whole conversation would be academic. So, Chairperson, I would maybe suggest that once that conversation is completed, that one maybe then deals with these comments by the provincial government, because they may not be applicable to the version of the bill that the committee ultimately decides on. Yes, Chair, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Advocate Leroux. Members, there are two proposals that have been made, the one by Member Bartman and the one by Member Dugmore. We've had quite a robust discussion around these two proposals. Member Bartman?
Sorry for interrupting, Chair. Is it possible for us just to go through the provincial treasury or government comments before we put our consideration, just to see if there's anything else that we need to take into consideration?
Okay. Advocate Leroux, was there anything from the provincial treasury?
Chairperson, we can go through the comments quickly, just so that everybody can get a sense of what those comments were about. I don't think that will take long. Chairperson, the first comment related effectively to the issue of the financial implications. I think the comment here more or less was, and I think the important part was that the information is insufficient for the public to on the financial implications for the public to participate meaningfully or to be fully informed. And I think that comment was made that was made on the bill, but I think the committee is aware of the fact that that financial information was made available during the public involvement process with the breakdown of the different options and what the expected expenditure would have been in respect of that. So that was the one comment. There was a proposal that the long title or the preamble that it be the long title that it be amended to say where it says to amend the Constitution of the Western Cape 1997 in order to provide for the manner in which the number of members must be determined. The proposal there is that it should be indicate to differently provide, because the view was that that draft is confusing and that it may create the impression that the provincial constitution does not already provide for the number of seats in the legislature. I agree with that proposal. I think that makes sense, to just include that word differently in the long title. There was a comment about the wording of subsections 1 and 2. Now, I'm not going to express a view at this point in time whether I'm in full agreement with this view, but it's proposed that there is the wording of subsections 1 and 2, that there is overlap, and it's proposed that those subsections be reworded to avoid confusion. And Chairperson, this is an example of where that may or may not be the case, but I don't think we would want to start amending the proposed sub-clauses at this point in time if this committee simply decides to go a completely different approach than the formulaic approach, and that then we will just be wasting our time. For example, if the committee decides to repeal Section 13, or if the committee decides to go for direct substitution and simply insert a number in Section 13, then these comments, I would venture to say these comments would no longer be relevant. So that was a comment about, I suppose, the interrelationship between subclauses 1 and subclause 2. And there was a proposal that those clauses be reworded. There's a reference to the use of the word members and seats. I agree with that there should be consistency. Again, depending on what this committee ultimately decides, when we do an A bill and a B bill, then we will make sure that consistency is present. Pardon. There was a comment on clause 1, and I think the issue essentially of the provincial constitution providing for the number of members, so subclause 1 provides for that, but then subclause 2 provides for a mechanism for that number to be determined. Chairperson, this is also an issue I actually flagged in my initial presentation in September 2022. It was also a concern I had that there might be interpretational issues in that area. Now, of course, if the committee decides to go with a formulaic approach, we need to deal with that, and we need to make sure that there's not ambiguity in those clauses. But again, if the committee goes for repeal of Section 13 or for direct substitution of the number, then these comments will not be relevant. And then there's some reference to case law. There was a comment on replacing the word bill in the I think it was the draft bill at the time with act. That has in fact been corrected in the version of the bill that was introduced. So that comment is correct, but it has also already been remedied. And then there was a comment on the timelines, which I also commented on earlier, being, that there's a doubt that all these provisions and certification by the Constitutional Court can be concluded in such a time that the bill can come into effect for the 7th parliamentary term. Chair, I don't know whether if there are questions, if I was not sufficiently particular, you can just tell me.
No, thank you very much, Advocate Leroux. Member Klaas?
No, I wanted just to say that I hear our comments and all that, but honestly, also there was a guidance saying that the number of 72 is better to all provincial and also this thing. But honestly, there was a guidance from the government saying that the number that can be switched as 72 as per se. But because of us that we elaborate and put our facts, it's going to delay this thing. But for myself, I stand with the government.
I'm assuming you mean
Proposal.
you're standing with the IEC's recommendation of 1:100,000.
Sorry, yes, IEC, I stand with them.
Thank you very much, Member Klaas. Members, are there any further inputs into this discussion? Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. Chairs, no further inputs based on the Western Cape government inputs, but given what we have heard, I would wish to remain with my original position that we accept option 1 that was presented to us, that is 6 extra members at an estimated cost of 22 million rand per annum, and that cost being absorbed by the Western Cape Provincial Parliament. This would then mean that instead of the formula, we would simply substitute the number 42 with 48. And that is my proposed consideration for this committee that I would wish to put, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Bartman. Are there any, Member Dagmar, I see your mic is unmuted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, no, I did have my hand up. Chair, yes, I would like to move a motion that the committee, having conducted public hearings, having discussed the issue of the legislature itself deciding on the number, is of the view that the particular clause, I think it's clause 13, should be, you propose that an amendment should be moved to remove clause 13 from the provincial constitution, and then inform, after the relevant processes of certification of that amendment by the Constitutional Court, to then inform the IEC that of this constitutional amendment, and request that relevant body to apply the national formula to the size of the provincial legislature. So I can, formulate that motion, but I would I would oppose the motion, and I didn't hear if anyone seconded Member Bartman, but I would like to, so I'm not seconding her motion, I'm seconding the motion to remove that the committee, for those reasons I've mentioned, proposes that that particular clause 13 be removed from the provincial constitution and the other things that I said. I'm not sure whether anyone will second my proposal. And then secondly, in addition to that, that the committee should urgently brief the legislature in order to ensure that these changes be effected timeously. Because really, it's up to now. I mean, we've all been, let's be honest, we've all been working on the basis that the reason for the rush was to get this done before the 2024 elections. So if it's not actually the case anymore, that's a different story, but that's the motion that I would like to propose. I don't support Member Bartman's motion. I support a motion that we replace clause 3, that we remove clause 13 from the provincial constitution and inform the IEC that the Western Cape has amended its constitution. That's all we need to do.
Thank you, Member Dugmore. Member Pretorius?
Chair, I move to second Member Bartman's proposal.
Thank you, Member Pretorius. Is there a seconder for Member Dugmore's proposal? Member Dugmore's motion. There is no seconder for Member Dugmore's motion. If you just give me a moment, please.
I disagree with Member Bartman motion. Thank you. Because they create their own thing, because now they want to tell now even the government itself what to do. Because the IEC give them the clarity, show them the direction. Now they want to change that thing so that no matter I can honestly say that we wasted our time to go and do this oversight. Because if it's 48, there's no such that number. We can drive so much and sleep in a hotel for 6 people. According to my counting, is not to say it's low or what I'm trying, but we cannot drive around and eat in a hotel for 6 people. Honestly, the service delivery is the part that we need. We need service delivery. Service delivery, adding 6 people. And you know yourself that this committee are double the work. So it's just honestly just to satisfy the point of this option 1. The issue of the money, we did explain that the money depends to the provincial treasurer, not us. We cannot come and tell this money. The provincial treasurer will say that this money is not right. It's more after they have received that number of 72. But now we said here that we want this thing, we worry about money. But on the other side, we were going around. And the 6 members, it doesn't give any sense. Thank you.
Sorry, Member Class, I lost you. Have you completed your submission?
Yes, I support only. I don't even support that one. The law must be changed. We cannot go and change the legality now. It's not that time. That time will be done when we are. It must be proposed the National Parliament. My proposal is that the IEC suggestion must stay.
Okay, so you are in effect supporting member Dugmore's motion that the section 13 be removed.
No, because it will take time. You can't
Okay.
just now go and remove. I'm out even to that one. Mine is the one that the IEC proposal must stay, if not been supported or not. But I said IEC proposal must stay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we have member. We have the two motions. We must put it to the vote. All in favor of member Bartman's proposal, member Bartman?
Chair, on a point of order, if I hear Member Klaas correctly, he did not second Member Dugmore's motion. Therefore, the motion fails, and the motion that I have put, which was seconded in terms of the rules of the Western Cape Provincial Parliament, must be put to a vote. That is my understanding. If that is incorrect, if Member Klaas could then just please clarify, but that is what I heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard the same thing, member Dugmore. Member Dugmore? Okay.
Sorry about that, Chair. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
I did not hear Member Klaas supporting the motion that I tabled, although he raised his own view, and that was around the IEC formula. But I'm just sharing my motion because whether it is seconded or not, I would just like the minutes to reflect that this was the motion that I proposed, for which there was no seconder. And I would also like to indicate, then I'm not sure whether you're going to formally put Member Bartman's motion, because I would like to record my vote against that motion. Thanks.
Okay. Before I put the vote the motion to the House, to the committee, Mr. Vermeulen.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Chairperson, mine will just be a quick comment just based on the rules. I think our rules does actually provide for the fact and makes it actually quite clear that in the House and committees, we don't need seconders. And I know that committees often ask for a seconder, but it's actually not a provision of our rules. I think one of the reasons is, for example, if you have a party with only one member, that person can also move a motion for the House, for a committee or the House to consider. So that's just a technicality. I do understand what Member Bartman is also saying, but that's just a technicality. Chairperson, I don't want to get involved in discussions. That's not my job, and maybe I misunderstand, but I actually think, speaking under correction, that Member Klaas's proposal, although he says that he's not supporting Mr. Dugmore, actually comes down to the same thing, but that's not for me to decide. I actually just wanted to comment on what Ms. Bartman said. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I will now put the Member Bartman's Member Dugmore.
No, Chair, sorry. I think that clarity is actually correct. I think we did deal with this matter in another committee, that you don't require a formal seconder. So I would like to appeal to you just to put both motions and see if there's anyone in support of them, as opposed to a motion being seconded.
Okay. Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chairperson. While I disagree with the interpretation of the rules, I'm happy with both motions being put and both being put to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Klaas, before we go to the vote, Member Klaas?
Chair, I don't know how now, because I agree with, I forgot that person who lastly talked. When the motion is not voted or is not seconded, it falls according to the meeting. So the motion that is stand is for Member Bartman, according to the rules of the meeting. There's no motion that has been seconded. Only the motion that is seconded is here. So the House doesn't need to vote. It's straight that according to the meeting, it stands. Thank you.
Member Class, we've been advised by the Senior Procedural Officer that a seconder is not required for a motion to be put to the floor. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put both motions to the committee, and we'll vote accordingly. On motion one from Member Bartman to amend the clause in the Constitution to say 48 seats. Anyone in favor of that? Member Pretorius?
In favor, Chair.
I am also in favor. Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. As the mover of the motion, I'm in favor of it.
Member Dugmore?
I'm opposed to the motion. A vote against it.
Okay. Member Klaas?
I voted against it.
Thank you very much. The second motion from Member Dugmore to repeal Section 13 of the Constitution. Are there anybody in favor? Is there anybody against the motion? I'm against. Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. I'm against the motion as put by Member Dugmore.
Member Pretorius?
I'm against the Dugmore motion. Thank you.
And I too am against the motion. Member Dugmore?
I support the motion.
Member Klaas?
I support the motion.
Right, so the motion won with three in favor and 2 against is carried. Motion 2 with 2 in favor and 3 against is not carried. Ms. Kamish Ahmad, if you could enter that into the record and make sure that is all votes are recorded as they have been made. Thank you very much, members. We have now moved the amendment to the Constitution. If you might just give me a minute now quickly, please. Sorry, Member Dugmore, if you could mute for a second, please.
You just like me to mute, Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, apologies.
Right, members, given that we have now passed the motion, we're just going to break for 5 minutes to make sure that we follow the correct process. We will reconvene at 1:45 at 15:45. The meeting is suspended for 5 minutes now. Thank you. Just want to make sure if all the members are back in the house and back at their laptops. Member Bartman, are you there?
Online?
Member Pretorius? Member
I'm
Pretorius?
here, Chair. Sorry
Member
to
Dagmo's
interrupt.
there. Member Klaas? Siraj, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah, you are there. And Member Pretorius, are you there?
I'm here, Chair.
Thank you very much. Then we can continue the meeting with the motion of desirability. The motion reads that in the opinion of the committee, legislation is desirable to amend the Constitution of the Western Cape 1997 so as to provide a number of members of the Provincial Parliament and to provide for matters connected therewith. Are all the members in favor of the motion of desirability? Member Bartman?
Chair, I support.
I'm not in favor.
Okay. Member Pretorius?
Is that of the motion?
The motion, yes.
Chair, my apologies. I was interrupted by a phone call there, which I had to take. What are we
Okay.
voting on?
We are voting on the motion of desirability, which means that the motion reads that in the opinion of the committee, legislation is desirable to amend the Constitution of the Western Cape 1997 so as to provide the number of members of the Provincial Parliament and to provide for matters connected therewith. I've asked if members are in favor of the motion of desirability. Member Bartman indicated that she's in favor. Member Pretorius?
I'm in favor, Chair.
Member Dugmore, are you still not in favor?
Person, the issue is that we think it's desirable to amend the Constitution, remove clause 13.
We're just dealing with the motion of desirability to amend the Constitution. We will go to the clauses shortly. So are you in favor of the motion of desirability, i.e. to amend the Constitution?
Yes, no, clearly we are.
Thank you,
we've
sir.
always amending the Constitution.
Thank you, sir. Member Klaas?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. I will now put the bill clause by clause, including clauses with amendments for decision by the committee. Member Ms. Kamish Ahmad, if you could flight the bill for me, please. Thank you very much. Let's go to clause 1. That the following section is substituted for section 13. That the Parliament consists of, the amendment is that we have 48 elected members.
Chairperson?
Yes, Member Bartman?
Thank you so much. I wasn't sure if you're able to see my hand.
Sorry, I saw your hand lately there.
Okay. I wish that we move an amendment to clause 1 that instead of 42 elected members, it reads 48 elected members, and that we reject the proposal that it reads 1 member for every 100,000 of the population whose ordinary place of residence is within the province but might not exceed 80 members. Subsection 2, number of members of the Provincial Parliament is determined in the number provided for in its rules and orders, quote, closed. So essentially, I propose just that the number 42 be replaced by the number 48. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bartman. Are there any objections to this to this amendment? Member Pretorius?
Chair, I support that suggestion motion by Member Bartman.
Thank you very much. I too support the motion, the amendment. Any objections to the amendment?
Yes, objection from the side of the ANC, given that we propose that the portfolio committee, having considered the various inputs from members of the public, further noting that the IAC formula applies to all other provinces and believing that it is preferable that an independent commission determines the size of the legislature as opposed to the members themselves, and therefore proposes that clause 13 of the provincial constitution be deleted.
Thank you. Ms. Kamish Ahmad?
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, through you, we have passed the stage of putting proposals forward, and it was already established that the one motion has been adopted by the committee, that they will replace or substitute 42 to 48. And we requested the legal advisor to draft the A list, so that we can show that how the bill will look in its format. So, Chair, what the committee decided now, I can ask Andre. I actually asked him in the break to draft a list of what was discussed, and he can flight it so that the members can see it. But after member has just tabled everything formally. Thank you.
Okay. So do you want Advocate Leroux to flight the A list now, or after we conclude the bill?
Chair, can we just conclude on the bill?
Okay, fantastic.
Thanks.
So there is an objection to to clause 1. And we've already passed the motion that we have agreed to the bill, the clause being amended to reach 48 elected members. Ms. Kamish Ahmad, legacy hand? Ms. Kamish Ahmad?
Yes, it's a legacy hand, Chair. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Then we will move on to clause 2. It's the short title and commencement. Are there any objections to clause 2?
None.
Thank you very much. That is agreed to. And then the short title of the bill. Are there any objections?
None.
Thank you. That is so agreed to. The long title to the bill. Mr. Vermeulen.
Chairperson, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not confusing myself. It's very possible that I am. It's been a while since I've done a bill, but I seem to recall that there was an amendment. Sorry, Wasima, are you scrolling down? In the long title. Wasn't there a proposal there for that? I remember there's a word different coming in somewhere. Maybe Andre can assist, Chairperson, if I'm confused. I see Andre's put his hand.
Advocate Leroux.
Yes, Chair. Through
Yes,
you.
Ms. Kamish Ahmad.
Chair, I think that the committee decided to go through the bill first and just put all the changes. Andre has drafted something. We are not flighting that. If the members want to see the A list, we can flight that now.
Okay, Member Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, we must flight the A list because as a committee, we need to agree to
Yes.
what we are sending to the House. So
Yes,
if we can
Corey.
can we please go clause by clause through the actual clauses that we are agreeing to? Because it's not going to help that we're putting different bills and then we are getting confused. Let us please put the final wording of the respective clause up so that we can then finally vote on the respective clauses. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I agree with that. Now let's flight the A list then, if that's available Advocate Leroux?
Chair, the A list is
Sorry,
available.
Chair?
Yes, Member Dugmore.
Sorry, Chair, I think I'd just like to clarify something. If you can just put up that clause 13 again.
Clause 13.
Yeah, just put up that clause again. Because
Okay.
I'm just trying to get clarity on something here.
Okay. Ms. Kamish Ahmed. Thank you. There you go, sir. What is your clarity question?
Okay, just if you can just go up a little bit to the actual clause substituted for section 13, just go up a little bit, Ms. Kamish Ahmed. Just go up with the screen a bit.
Up, not down, ma'am.
To the actual, or down, yeah, just so that we can see the substituted clause.
There it is, sir.
Okay, I'm just seeing, I can only see one on the screen. It doesn't go, just go down a little bit. Yeah. So if you actually look at this wording, no. Now we can't see it again.
I can see it now.
I'm also able to see it, Chair.
Can't actually.
Member Dugmore, do you want to see?
Yeah, there we are.
Clause 2 or clause
So
1?
so I just want to know how Member Bartman's proposal in support of this clause, because if you look at clause 13, it actually it would read, the provincial parliament consists of, and then that, as I understand it, 42 elected members is deleted, right? Consists of 1 member for every 100,000 of the population, whose ordinary place of residence but may not exceed 80 members. And then 13.2 says the number of members of the provincial parliament must be determined in the manner. Now, as much as clause 2 says it must be determined in the manner, the reality is that there are 7.4 million people. So the clause as it currently stands, in effect, amounts to increasing the size to 74, because as much as there must be house provided for, the clause in this format says 1 member for every 100,000, and that will amount to 74. Whereas what we are, that then means that the legislature itself, through amending the constitution, is deciding. Whereas our proposal is to remove. But in effect, 13.1 and 2 is going to amount to 74. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, but I'm going to allow Member Bartman just to clarify, Member Bartman.
Chair, the motion to increase from 42 to 48 has already been put. It has
Yes.
already been supported with a majority votes of the members of this committee. The Constitution, in terms of legislative drafting, this is clause 1 that proposes to amend section 13 of the Constitution. Section 13 of the Western Cape Provincial Constitution reads, the provincial parliament consists of 42 elected members. The clause 1 in this bill is proposing that we include subsection 1. That's why you see the underlining of the number 1. It further proposes all the rest of the underlining in that clause, including subsection 2. And then it proposes, and that's why it's in bold with little brackets, that we delete 42 elected members. I proposed originally that instead of inserting those extra words and deleting the 42 elected members, we simply substitute the number 42 with 48. I am now waiting for us to put the A list up so that we can see what the A list look like, so that we can go clause by clause to vote on the clauses as it has been amended by the motion I have already put. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Klaas?
Chair,
Chair?
no, thank you. But can I
Yeah,
just
I'm
get
on
clarity
the
here? Is
platform.
Member Bartman therefore proposing is she proposing that
Chair,
we
Chair,
just have a 13-1,
hold on,
Councillor Chair,
which says
it's not right to speak. You don't
Sorry,
have the
member-
right.
Sorry,
member
You are
Dagmo.
not
sorry.
asked to speak.
apologies. Okay.
You are not.
Thank you, Member Dagmo. Member
Okay.
Klaas?
Chairperson, I don't want to reverse the motion. I want just us to read this thing correctly.
Yes.
The reason I said to you that 42 elected member, it was the members that were there before 1994. There was no changes. That is why it stands as like that. So now, there was a request of an increase. When the request of the increase, the number they said that must not exceed 80. So the population must be a manner provided by the rules and orders. So which rule that a member parliament brought? Because there's no rule of say option 1 is 48, option 1, but the number 2 said the number of members of the provincial must, they didn't say shall, must be determined in the manner provided for its rules and orders. So now that point, no matter we did continue, but we must not now engage on it. Let us put it like that because the vote took into that decision. Because if we are going to reverse and speak one thing and then we must challenge because we were here and we disagree. So we have a right to challenge that. Thank you.
I would like to remind members that the motion was already passed, that we amend the section 42 to 48. But can we please have the A list flighted so we can see exactly what we've gone through? Advocate Leroux, can we put the A list up, please?
Chair.
Yes, Member Dagmo.
Chair, could I just, what I'm trying to get at is, yes, the motion of Member Bartman was passed as a motion. We are now getting into the actual issue of the clause. So I want to know, what is the clause actually? Is it simply that the Western Cape Legislature shall consist of 48 members and that's it? And then you remove the whole issue of 100,000. Is that what is being proposed?
That is correctly what's being proposed. But can we just have a look at the A list so we can agree on the A list as well? But that is exactly what's being proposed, sir. Advocate Leroux?
Chairperson, I flighted the A list. There's
can
also
see
a
it, sir.
B-bill. If the committee will bear with me, I don't think it will take long, but I think once we've looked at the A list and the B-bill, then the members can just see, well, at least see what my understanding of the proposals are. Chairperson, it's just one page, amendments agreed to. So this is the proposed A list. There are only 3 big changes. Firstly, on the long title, Chairperson, I've mentioned the issue raised by the Western Cape government where they suggested that we insert the word differently in the long title because their proposal was that there might be confusion, and it seems like the provincial constitution doesn't already provide for the number of seats, and it does. I agree with that. So my proposal would be that the word differently be inserted before the word provide in the first line of the long title. And Chair, when I get to the B-bill, the members will be able to see what the amended version will then look like. Then on clause 1 on page 2, the proposal is that lines 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 be removed and that they be substituted as follows. So the heading, basically then the proposal is that section 13 of the provincial constitution remains exactly the way it is now, except that number 42 will be removed and the number 48 will be inserted. That's my understanding, that it's the committee's decision not to use the formulaic approach, but to just do a direct substitution of that number. So the provincial constitution will determine the number of members, and there's no need for other processes, etc., to determine that. Then on clause 2, if clause 1 is amended as reflected here, then that has a knock-on effect on clause 2. And then the proposal here is on page 2 that lines 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 be removed and that it be substituted as follows. And effectively what it will say is the act is called the Constitution of the Western Cape Amendment Act, Determination of Numbers of Members 2023, and that it will take effect on the day before the first day of polling for the next provincial parliament. And as I think we've already discussed that in committee, the effective date to make sure that there's no confusion about what the number of members in a particular parliamentary term is. So that is the intention there. Chairperson, so that is the A bill. And if I may, I think it will be most useful to just have a quick look at the B bill, because then one can read everything together and see how it is proposed. The bill should then look once all the amendments in the A list has been given effect to. So it's the B bill, the usual explanatory note. The short title of the bill remains the same. The long title will read to amend the Constitution of the Western Cape 1997 so as to differently provide for the number of members of the Provincial Parliament and to provide for matters connected therewith, be it enacted by the Provincial Parliament, etc. Substitution of Section 13. This is the same from the bill as it was. But it will now read the following section is substituted for Section 13 of the Constitution of the Western Cape 1997, and then it is proposed that that should be Section 13 of the Provincial Constitution will simply read the Provincial Parliament consists of 48 elected members, and we've already looked at the short title and commencement. So on my understanding of what is proposed with the 48 members, this is then what the amendment bill that will look like, as is reflected here on the B bill. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Advocate Leroux. We will now go clause by clause, starting with the long title of the bill. So can we flight that, please, Ms. Kamish Ahmed?
We can flight the B bill.
Yeah.
Then we can let's just flight the B bill. Chair, we can flight the
yes, we can flight the B bill,
and then the committee can agree if there's any amendments on the B bill. In conjunction with the A list. So, and then the members can adopt, and then we can move on to the report, Chair.
Member Bartman?
Chair, I just need clarity. Do we need to go clause by clause through the A bill or clause by clause through the B bill, just so that we are clear on which bill we are going through clause by clause on?
We will go clause by clause through the B bill because that takes in consideration the amendments and the motion that we've agreed to.
The A list.
The A list, sorry.
So, Chairperson,
Perfect.
we will.
Thanks.
So the committee has already discussed all the amendments and the changes and what they want in the bill. And Andre, as he said, he drafted the A list and drafted the B bill as to what he understood, what the members said. If there's any changes, the members must indicate now, and then we can adopt the bill in totality. Thank you.
Okay. So let's go through the amendments again. The bill clause by clause. We'll start with the long title. Are there any objections to the long title?
None.
Thank you very much. We go through clause 1. Are there any objections to clause 1 of the bill?
None.
Thank you. We go through clause 2. Are there any objections to clause 2 of the bill?
None.
Thank you very much. I now put the entire bill to the committee. Are there any objections to the final bill? The entire bill,
None.
sorry.
None.
Thank you very much. Then I will table the draft committee report for consideration and adoption by the committee. Do we have that draft committee report? Ms. Kamish Ahmed?
Chair, just give me 2 seconds.
Sure. We will wait for Ms. Kamish Ahmed.
Chair, I just want to quickly draft the report. 2 seconds.
Thank you.
Can you see?
Yes, I can. I will now put the report to the committee, the draft report of the Standing Committee on the Premier and Constitutional Matters on the Constitution of the Western Cape Amendment Bill, determination number of members B6-2023, dated 22 November 2023. The Standing Committee on the Premier and Constitutional Matters, having considered the subject of the Constitution of the Western Cape Amendment Bill, determination of number of members B6-2023, referred to it in terms of Standing Rule 173, reports the bill with amendments. Is there a minority view to the draft report? Mr. Vermeulen?
Chair, sorry for the delay. I was looking for my button. I just want to tell Wasima, just so we get it right while we're all here. Chairperson, Wasima, it's correct what Chairperson say. I'm speaking through you, Chair. It's with amendments, but we usually say at this stage with amendments, and then we say Bill B6 of 2023, and we say A and B. So then we refer to the A and B bill. We can just add that in if members are all happy with it and get the wording perfect afterwards for Chairperson to sign. But we will say with amendments, Bill A and Bill B will refer to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
I will. Yes, Mr. Vermeulen? Okay, thank you very much.
No, I should just say thank you. I said thank you, sir.
Thank you. So it will be report the bill with amendments A bill and B bill. Is there a minority view that will be added, that needs to be added to the report?
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Kamish Ahmed, is there lag on your side as well?
Yes, Chair, I can't hear Member Dagmo.
Sorry, Member Dagmo, can you just repeat that, please?
Can hear you.
You could
Member Dagmo should just type in on the side if he wants to add a minority. We can't hear him.
We can't hear you, Member Dagmo. Do you mind? Do you mind putting your
hello.
You're breaking up, sir.
Okay, no, my mic is on for some reason. You can't hear me. So I'm putting something.
Okay, you're putting something in the you're putting something in the chat box. That's fine. We will wait for you to type it in the chat box. Member Klaas?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. My amendment or my point in this one is that let the bill be changed as Act 2. I support that this bill not be amended. The reason I said not be amended is that the number that we or that Western Cape used, it was the old number of the before 1994.
Okay.
So because that number was before 1994, it is the first time that we hear that there is an option of one that but happened. So in other words, we say that option number 1 is not allowed to change
Okay.
of this bill.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that means that you have a minority view to not support the bill.
Yes, and I stated,
Thank you.
I want
Thank
to
you so
state that
much.
when we don't support, we say the numbers must be according to the IEC a stated number.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So in accordance with Standing Rule 90.
And I support 72.
Okay, thank you.
Members must be in the legislature.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So in accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress and the Economic Freedom Fighters have expressed their minority view to not support the bill. Members, can we adopt the report? Member Bartman?
Thank you, Chair. I move to adopt the report.
Thank you very much. As we've already been told that there's
Chair,
no need.
Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Member Damu, but we've already noted your minority view.
Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Yes, no, I know. I just wanted to say, I'm happy that our minority view has been noted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Pretorius?
I support the proposal by Member Bartman, Chair.
To adopt the report.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. The report is so adopted. Members, if there are no further resolutions or actions to be taken from this meeting. Member Klaas?
Yeah, my resolution is that as the EFF, we will take this resolution to the upper structure in order to reconsider what has been adopted here. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Klaas. If there are no further resolutions or actions, thank you very much, members, for your robust and in-depth discussions. Thank you very much to Advocate Leroux, to Mr. Vermeulen, and especially to Ms. Kamish Ahmed, and to Ms. Mshumpela. Thank you very much for your attendance and for your assistance. We appreciate it. With there being no further actions, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.